So welcome to both sides of the mic. I have to keep practicing that because it was callers and cars getting a drink before, and now it's both sides of the mic. The two callers we have today could easily fill up the hour individually. That's for sure. But as a couple, because they do work together quite a bit. I've worked with both Dave and Dave. We did have a Zoom show, and I can't remember. We tossed around different names for it. Dave, my other brother Dave, and my other brother Dave. Two Daves and a Joe. Two Daves and the other Dave, and it was a C2 level. So anyhow, that's since been finished. So anyhow, I'm going to see if I can get Dave and Dave to show up. I'm going to have to share my screen for this. Let me see my screen. Oh boy. Nope, is that what I want to do? Yeah, it might be. Let's see. Let's try this and see if this comes on here. Okay, do you see a recording button there? Okay, did y'all see that okay? Just good, okay. I guess they have arrived. Oh, there's Dave Eno and
There you
Dave
go.
Hutchinson and the other Dave.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you good.
Good. Yeah, we just got here.
Yeah,
Our driver dropped us off.
in your Rolls Royce.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yes,
it was a nice drive down.
nothing shabby about this.
No.
Um, as I mentioned before, don't forget all opinions given here are Dave and Dave's. I have nothing to do with this. I, I never saw these two before in my whole life. Uh,
Yeah,
Sorry, but I can't see with the sunglasses.
that's okay. You got us on here. I was told I was coming on Jimmy Kimmel. What the hell's this? um, oh well.
Well,
I'm gonna talk to my agent. Here he is on the other screen.
unmute yourself, Dave. Dave.
This is the best I could do, Dave. Sorry.
Okay.
It'll still be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yes, I imagine we're gonna hear things that some of us aren't gonna want to hear. Um, Send the kids away from the room, please. Anyhow, so with over 40 years each of you calling experience and calling most everywhere there is to call, developing unique choreography, putting a new twist on singing calls, and just great entertainers all around now. Tell me, where was the first drive-through McDonald's you used?
Oh, geez. That was what, last week, Dave?
I think so. Yeah.
It was
We went, I think
last.
that
It
was
was
McDonald's, right?
last week here in Napanee. I
Yeah.
think was
Classy,
Wendy's. Yeah,
classy. Yeah,
They
yeah.
sell cheeseburgers there, by the
that's
way.
the yeah. That's a good intro for the 43 years of calling to go to McDonald's drive-through.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
It's
that's
like it's like our rental Rolls Royce on our mechanics wages. We can't really afford one, so we had to rent that one.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I I know the rentor on that one too.
Hmm.
Um, we'll get into that eventually. So anyhow, that's one of the burning questions everybody wanted to know. Of course,
Yeah. Hmm.
uh, nothing unclassy about McDonald's. Um, so let me start with Dave Eno. Oh, wait a minute. That music, by the way, was Dave Eno supplying that music. And let me just go to my share screen one more time because I want to ask Dave a very important question here. I just have to see if I can get this one on here. Okay. No, I'm sharing my screen, but I can't find my. Well, that's nice that I'm sharing my screen, but I can't find what I'm looking for.
At the bottom is a play button, Joe.
Yeah.
Well, that's not the one that I. Yeah, that's not the one I was after because that's the that was the entrance. Let me stop sharing. Go back. I'll start this again. Ah, there we are. It's loading. I'm screen sharing. Now they can see my screen. I can't see my screen. What I'm talking about. Well, that's too bad. No, that's still the wrong thing. Let me get out of that.
Mary said you had to close the YouTube window.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll try that. But then I can't get my share on there.
Mm.
But I'm going to go here anyhow, and I'm going to go. This may be it. Is that sharing? Okay.
That's the next hoedown I'm going to release.
Okay, that was Davino. And the question for that was only audio?
Yeah.
Oh, that's too bad. Well, that was Dave, And my question is, why did you sink to the level of becoming a square dance caller instead of a musician? You know how classy musicians are.
Right, right. Well, that's a good question. The honest answer, I don't think my dad would let me. I think I started playing in the fourth grade, and I think at some point, I'd probably talked about being a guitar player, and my dad had said, nope, there's no future in that. But then for whatever reason, he said you should be a square dance caller instead.
Yeah, some more money on that.
Right, right. Yeah, at
Lots
the
of
time there might have been, but
yeah, yeah. I was just on Google the other day, and it was telling about the money the song writers and performers are making, and a couple of these guys they do like two songs, playing them, and they're worth like $9 million or $10 million. I thought, wow,
yeah, wish I had that problem. But
yeah,
yeah, I mean, plus rock star, this face, nah, just wouldn't work.
no, no. Oh well, you'll have to. We'll have to set it up and do the live music dance sometime. Um, so, well, with Dave E. For the moment, uh, being from the Syracuse, New York area, he's not too far from a place that I used to run called. Well, at the time it was called Potato Hill Camp Square Dance Campground. Now it's called Rockies Recreation Center. What's your experience with that, Dave?
I've called there a few times. It was a great place. Actually, I think right now it's called Nothing because I think it's closed. But
Yeah.
the last thing it was Rockies. Um, Rockies was there as long as I remember. I'm not sure what year it was built, but it was there forever. It had a great floor and had this little stage. And one of the things that I remember is that it was the speakers were built into the place. They had speakers on the walls, and it all came back to a little box on the wall where if you brought your amplifier, you could just plug into the wall. And the wires coming out were telephone wires, which don't carry a lot of. You can't put a lot of sound through the telephone wires, but so you lost a little bass sound there. It was a little bit, but it worked okay. And the other thing I remember is that it was a tin roof, and if it rained,
Yes. Yeah.
you couldn't hear for a week after it rained. It was.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was up there on and off for a lot
So
of years.
yeah, that and your dad called there, of course, as well.
Yep.
It was a little different when I was running it. We had a cement floor, but and there's some great stories that went with that hall, as there is with any hall, and the crazy square dance callers that populate such an environment. Dave H., how about your setup in Marlbank? How it started, what you've turned it into?
How we started in Marlbank?
Yeah,
Where's that?
somebody said
How
you
I
did.
how I started calling?
Well, yeah, let's go back that far.
That's a long time ago. I try to remember. No, it was my parents. Same as a lot of young kids, my parents got me into square dancing, and I got interested in calling, and went out and took a caller's course, and then was lucky enough to be able to call with John Park for a while because he was an incredible teacher, and he taught me how to teach, and yeah, that was the start of it all. And then back in those days, though, you weren't very well liked if you went stealing dancers from other people. So pretty much back then, you went and started your own club, and went from there. So yeah, I remember the first club we had. We danced. Well, I had to dance in the square because we only had 7 people. So for the first while, yeah, it was basically calling and dancing. Good experience though. Teaches you. You know.
Okay, and then eventually you let's skip some of the in between stuff and go to your move to Marlbank.
hmm
Oh,
Um,
can you turn your volume up a little?
yeah, by raising my voice.
Okay.
Okay, how's that? Any better?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Moving to Marlbank. That came after I worked on the cruise ship, as you know. I went and left everything up here and went down and worked for 3 years on a cruise ship. And while on the cruise ship, I figured the most fun place on the cruise ship was the bar every night. So when I left that, I wanted to open a bar, and it happened that in Marlbank here there was a bar available for sale, and it was right near my mom and dad, who were then in their 80s. And so I thought, well, move up here, be close to them, help them out, and yeah, we opened the bar in town here, and now it's just become a square dance hall, pretty much, instead of a bar. So that's the simple version.
Yep. Okay. Well, that's a good version. And how about that person sitting next to you there?
Mary,
Yeah.
long story there. Um, what do you want? The well,
The truth.
sometimes
The truth, Dave. Nothing but the truth.
well, the truth is sometimes stranger than fiction. Um, I first met Mary. I was calling at the Spring Spree in Peterborough, and she never knew my name. She knew me as Jack Platties. Um,
Gee.
I don't know if you've ever. Well, of course you call at these places, and you're supposed to take your card and move it, right? Well, Mary was late arriving, and I guess Jack Platties had been in the room before me, and he left his card there, so I just left it up as well. I'll be Jack for this hour, and so yeah, I picked her out on the floor. And I thought, oh, I'm going to meet that girl. And so I went down and just said hi to her. And that was it. I was forgetful. She didn't know. But she did come to the dance next week in Belleville, and that's when I first started talking to her. And it got really weird after that for a while. Uh, um, I had a partner that I was dancing with. Uh, so, it became a difficult situation when I started dating Mary and dancing with somebody else. Because let's face it, I wanted to dance with Mary. And then there was a time, actually, I had my partner, and Mary was across from me in the square. Jeff was calling, but they were both dressed in blue. And
Oh, jeez.
Jeff kept switching them. So I kept ending up with Mary as my partner. And I don't know, that was kind of a strange one. And then, no, nobody knew anything, but there was a club here. There was a line dance club running on a Wednesday morning. And so what happened is the lady who's happens to be on watching right now came early one morning and caught Mary leaving. So that kind of it became out in the open then that we were seeing each other.
Ah,
The rest the rest is history.
oh, yes. Yep. Well, and for those of you that don't know, but Mary went from beginner level to C9, not senile, C9
Yeah.
overnight. She'd show up at one of my workshops, Learning Plus, and all of a sudden she's back learning C1, and then when I started doing Zoom during COVID, both Dave and Mary had studied the C2 and C3 list, and no teaching, but just study the list, and memorizing the definitions, and were many times, for the most part, the best dancers on the floor.
Mhm.
So,
Well,
so
Mary, just to give you a timeline, Mary started square dancing in January and in September was doing C1.
yeah, and doing it well. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and now let's switch over. Dave Eno, how did you meet your partner?
Uh, we met online,
Aha.
which is a true story. I don't remember the website name, but and just started talking with each other, said hi to each other, and then met each other. And even though she knew ahead of time that I was a square dance caller, she still liked me. So,
In spite of it all.
in spite of it all. Yeah.
Uh,
Uh,
so does she dance?
she went through lessons. The deal and yes, she still does. She doesn't dance often, but she still could
Yeah.
because she remembers everything. And I remember one of the when she took lessons, one of the conditions was that I dance with her while I call. So I would dance, and while I was giving the lessons, I was out in the square. I remember the one time uh, early on, I was teaching stars or something, and maybe it was a star promenade. And for a split second, I thought to myself, I wonder what the guy's going to call next. Not even realizing, oh wait, that's me that's calling. So I remember that split second goes through my head. What's coming next? Oh, that's up to me. So that
Uh,
was fun.
that's good. I have another share screen here if I can. Um, oh, Daryl's coming in here. Um, now let's see if this comes up.
Oh boy.
Now, do you Dave Hutchinson? Do you recognize this performance couple?
Yes, that was when Sonny and Cher came on board the ship.
Yeah.
Uh, that was on the main deck. Yeah, I remember them coming on board. They were a big hit.
Who was better, Sonny or Cher?
My opinion,
Yeah.
Cher. Cher by far.
Okay, I'm going to leave that up for a few more seconds so you can all see there's a great resemblance. I understand Cher did some impersonations of Dave Hutchinson at one time, I guess.
Yeah.
Mm.
Hmm.
Yeah. So anyhow,
I knew there was a reason we never saw Cher and Dave in the same room together.
There you
yeah.
go. Yes. Yeah.
The
That
things
was
we do.
well. That was a performance we had to give on the ship, and of course, at the time, um, my wife at the time, who's passed away now, um, she was much shorter than I was. So doing Sonny and Cher, well, I couldn't very well be Sonny being the tall one. I had to be Cher. And besides, I had the longer nose, so it worked out better.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if you saw the shoes I was in that picture, but try walking around on a heaving deck on a ship in 6-inch stiletto spikes. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So you did that for 3 years, huh?
Yeah, but not that particular thing. But yeah, I was
That's
on
what
the
he
ship for
says.
3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. We believe it. We know better.
yeah.
Uh, okay. So
Thinking, what are the chances if Cher actually sees this? I wonder what she would think.
Yeah,
lawsuit,
or should be addressed. Yeah,
defamation. What do they call it? Defamation of a character or something? I don't know.
something like
Um,
that.
let's go back to Davey for a second. We're all used to going to great strength to, learn our craft and gain more knowledge about how to call and how to perform and everything else.
So
Uh,
trying.
so, um, why don't you tell us about how you were picking Lee Cotman's brains?
Oh, yeah. Early on, my dad got me into calling. I was in his first beginner's class. He needed he was short one couple, so I danced with my mom. So it's kind of an accident that I got into it. And he used to get these. My dad used to get these records in the mail by a place called Sets in Order, and they were a 33 and a third. We all remember records here, probably plate
Yeah,
music they spun around, and they would have 4 callers on each side, and they'd have a record for basics and whatever the levels were at the time. There's basics and extended basics, I guess, was a level, whatever. And you try to dance to these things, and Lee was on there, and I liked his calling. Lee Cotman's calling was different, so I kind of became a fan of his back when I was 10, 11 years old. And so eventually I got to meet him and talk with him, and so I like to say my dad got me started, but Lee was kind of my mentor. We would talk a lot on the phone. We'd eventually send emails back and forth. And I remember it being, at first kind of strange, because here's this person that's, developed a lot of calls, and looked up to the guy, and my phone would be ringing, and it was Lee, and his conversation would start with, Dave, I got this call. You got to do it tonight. Promise me you're going to do this call tonight. Here's what it's called. Here's how you do it. And it felt like, why he's calling me with these new calls. So, but I remember first that being a little strange, but I just liked his calling, and I liked his choreography, liked his voice, which is kind of strange. I guess a lot of people, he's very monotone, but it had a good quality to it, I thought. And we got to be friends. I learned a lot from him.
yeah. Okay, so between the both of you, oh yeah, Carrie's showing one of the long
Yeah.
play sets in order square dance
Yeah.
records.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, they were good. Lee did put out a complete LP record set
Yep.
teaching right
Yep.
from his teaching from the beginning on. I think somewhere in record 2 is already teaching Alter the Wave.
Yes.
Yeah, yes.
Right.
We're getting a whole tutorial here from Carrie. Thanks,
We
Carrie.
had this. We had this. I have a set of his, or not me. Someone had a set of his C1 teaching tapes, and they got it from. The teaching tapes are you just record a real class that he's teaching. It's not like you do it special to release it on cassettes. So one of the calls was something that he had just wrote, and it was just workshopping, and it was called Anchors Away. So this ended up being part of his C1, C1 teaching tape. But the funny thing is I think that they tried to take that part out of the tape. So he never really taught the call, but there were a couple of sequences that they had an anchors away in there. So they took out the teach because it wasn't really on the C1 list, but they left a couple of sequences of this call. And they called me and they said, what's this anchors away? Do you know how to do this? Well, I had no idea. So I remember calling Lee and he didn't remember either. So one of those, because they come and go, there's a lot of stuff you write, doesn't really work out. So you forget about it. So if anybody out there knows how to do an anchors away,
Yeah, yeah.
Great.
Let us know.
yeah.
So Dave, while you're speaking, what is your occupation?
I'm a software engineer.
Okay.
So I write computer programs.
Aha. That's probably why that video I did in the very beginning took up 99,000 gigabytes of my hard drive
Yeah.
because you put the
99.
whole thing in there. I thought I was stealing some company information there, all these downloads and executables and whatnot. Um, anyhow,
Yeah. Well, I have all your information now.
yeah, that and $5 to get you a cup of coffee at Tim Hortons.
It's down to $5 now.
Yeah. Let's move over to Dave Hutchinson. And what do you do for kicks when you're not calling, or as an occupation instead of calling before you got heavily involved?
Well, I was a mechanic for 30 odd years, and how many years was it? I don't know. It was a lot. Over 30 years anyway, I was a mechanic. So now I just fix all the equipment around here, everything that breaks down. We have a bunch of tractors and stuff that we do. And I write stuff. And yeah, what else do I do? It seems my days are full these days because, my mom and dad are both in their 90s now. So we cut their grass, look after everything up there, and they always seems to have something to do. So, yeah.
What's this? We cut the grass.
Okay, Mary does.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly, Mary, this Mary's the perfect woman. Mary enjoys cutting grass. I've never met anybody who enjoys cutting grass as much as Mary does. She would get mad at me if I went out and cut the lawn. Plus the fact that I'd cut most of her weeds and stuff down that she keeps that bloom nice. But yeah, she enjoys cutting grass. So hey, more power to her.
Hey, it works.
Go ahead. Yeah.
It works
Um,
great with you. She
yeah.
cuts it, you mow it. She mows it, you smoke it.
Yeah, that works well. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like cooking now. That's the one thing I really enjoy doing a lot of is cooking. So I do all the cooking around here, and yeah, it's it's good. It
Yeah.
works out for us, and except for meatloaf. The only thing Mary makes meatloaf so much better than mine. So
Aha.
we have meatloaf, Mary makes it. And
Okay.
I'm still waiting for one from my last birthday, which was last December, and I never got it. So I'm still waiting for that meatloaf. Yeah, it's a little overdue.
That's okay. Yeah, if you do a weekend out there with Dave and there's dinners involved now, you're missing a great treat if you don't go. Now it's a long way for you folks from like Australia and
Yeah,
Sweden and whatnot, but
it's
what
worth it
the
though.
heck, it's worth it. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
it is quite the spread.
we do these buffets, and we have I don't know, about 60 to 100 people, and they
Yeah.
come out pretty good. There's
Oh
always
yeah,
something good on them.
fantastic. So while we're with you, let's move on to some really good questions, like the most embarrassing uh, situation that happened while you were calling.
Oh boy.
Is it time for me to leave?
No, no. No, I don't know if you want to hear this.
Oh,
Embarrassing. Um, See, I'm hard to embarrass because I do things purposely to embarrass. Like when I was calling, I said, okay, we're on a break or whatever, and I just happen to mention, oh, I better go use the bathroom. And I'll make sure when I come back, I do things like I'll stick toilet paper on the bottom of my shoe. So when I walk back, it's there, right? I mean, people would think that's embarrassing, but I do it on purpose. Probably the worst em- thing I did, but I was only embarrassed in front of one person, and that was Les Greenwood.
Oh,
And, I don't know if anybody remembers Les, but we were working together, and Les was a bit of a guy on a Saturday night you could have some fun with. And we were on the stage together, and this was the Sunday morning after. And I had a bit of indigestional. Anyway, to make a long story short, he had to leave the stage. It was that bad. Uh, Next thing you know, he was calling from out on the floor. So I don't know if that's embarrassing, but it was embarrassing to me in front of him. Well, not really embarrassing, Um, I don't get embarrassed easy. So, I mean, I've done the usual stuff like everybody else, messed up, um, come out. But no, that was that's about the most embarrassing thing that's happened to me in real life on the stage. So, embarrassment's not really an issue with me. I don't get embarrassed easy.
no.
I do the stupidest things to begin with. Yeah,
No, you,
yeah.
capitalize on that part of it, which,
Usually,
is
yeah.
unique.
Hmm.
That's good. How about Dave? You never had an embarrassing moment, did you?
No. What's the name of this podcast?
Yeah. Dave's
Yeah.
most embarrassing moment.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know. I mean, the one remember, I mean, I think the most embarrassing moments are you're up there on stage and you say something that may offend somebody, but you had no idea, you had no intention of doing that. And that happens once. You say something that somebody takes wrong. But the the first thing I remember being, I don't know, a kid, probably 10 or 11 or 12 years old, there was a singing call that was called the Bird of Paradise. And the tagline went, it's the bird of paradise who really knows. Right. Well, at the same time, there was this guy on television selling these records where they spoof different songs, and his lyrics were "May the bird of paradise fly up your nose." Okay, so that's whatever, uh, and I don't remember the guy's name, but so we got the singing call, and I was, I was worried about using the alternate lyrics, in front of, people. And, sure enough, about the third verse in, I sing the tagline and everybody turns around and looks at me and starts laughing. I'm like, oh no, I used the wrong lyrics. And sure enough, today I'd probably use them on purpose. But back when you're a kid, and you're kind of terrified being in front of a bunch of people anyway. And then, with my voice way up here because it hasn't changed yet, and then
Oh, jeez.
may the bird of paradise fly up your nose. And, it was, that sticks out as an embarrassing moment.
And that's what people remember. You could
That's it.
call the greatest choreography with the greatest performance, and what do they remember? I
Right.
remember when you, yeah.
You call an Alaman left after a weave the ring or something. And then everybody,
Yeah, that was a good one. I'll
yeah.
remember that one.
How about the worst dance you call, Dave Hutchinson? What's the that you
Worst
thought?
dance I called. Worst for me,
Yeah.
um, probably very early in my career when I was calling on a Saturday night. And, you know, back in then I thought I was, I could do anything, but no, that's, I don't know. Just everything went wrong. Every single thing went wrong. You know, Alaman left to an Alaman Dar, go right and left, and I don't know, I did something wrong and I never got him home. Just an absolute mess. Um, I just remember going backstage and it was so bad I was shaking. I was sweating like mad and I was absolutely shaking. And I remember my dad coming up to me and saying, don't worry about it. Nobody's going to notice really. And he said, just go back out there. And I did. And it was okay after that. But yeah, I'll never forget that one. I just wanted to pack the whole thing in right then and there. Um,
Oh,
but the funny thing is, sometimes when you really don't feel you're calling that good, I'm told that half the people don't even notice anyway. So they just you know, accept what you put out there. So, but yeah, that was a bad one.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes when we think we're not doing so well, it turns out the dancers think it was a lot better than you thought it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dave, how about you?
Worst dance ever?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I can't think of a specific one. The hardest ones are when the crowd's divided in half and you have half the crowd are really good and then the other half are not so good, and you try to find that balance between. But I can't remember specific dances, but everybody has dances where you get grand right and left's going the wrong way, and you're element left with the same sex. Just things just fall apart. And worst dance ever. I don't know if I could tell you where one was.
Okay.
Dance this afternoon went pretty well.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
good. Well, what superpower do you want?
Do I want superpower?
Yeah. What superpower would you like? Becoming invisible, X-ray vision, the ability to fly without a plane.
That would be pretty cool. I was gonna say time traveling, but flying without a plane would be pretty neat. You'd want to have control of that so your superpower didn't turn off when you're at 30,000 feet.
Yeah.
Um, in that case, parachute. But yeah, time machine would be neat.
Yeah, that would be. I like that one. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll go with that one. How about Dave Hutchinson? What's your superpower if you had one?
Honestly,
Careful.
understanding woman. Would that be a superpower?
Oh, Lordy.
That's,
Well-
that's a power no other man
Go-
has.
go- yeah. Save yourself trouble. Work on a time machine.
That's it. Yeah, it'll be easier.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay. Well, we've got Dave Hutchinson on. There's an awful lot of times when, as callers, we have to put up with difficult situations and whatnot. And with Dave Hutchinson, he encountered such a thing. I know, Dave, you were dancing in my Zoom. I don't know if it was C123 at the point quite a while ago, and you were having trouble with your one foot anyhow. In fact, I think you might have been at the house dancing the C1 stuff when that started.
Mhm.
You want to give us a little bit of an update on that sort of the thing and let people
Yeah,
know that.
well, I thought you were going to talk about the times that I was calling that I had difficulties, but uh, no, that one there, I had some blood clots in my feet or my foot, and anyway, I lost my leg. To make a long story short, I ended up losing my right leg about a year ago, and they took it off. Kind of kind of a different thing, but it's getting better now. I have a prosthetic and I'm back to dancing. I was going to sue the hospital, so I went and saw a lawyer about it, and of course he told me I can't sue them, and well, you know why. Come on,
No.
say it.
No.
Yeah. I'll
Why?
let you- I think I know why. But
Because I didn't have a leg to stand on.
God.
Yeah. But anyway, no, you know what? We get by these things.
Yeah.
You got to keep your sense of humor. Keep it fun.
How did you handle it when Jeff Priest asked you about?
I just told him, "Don't worry, it'll grow back." You know. And then the next time I saw him, I was walking again, so in long pants. So I said, "See, Jeff, I told you it would grow back." And then he actually said to me, he said, "So, does it bother you at all being physically disabled?" And I said to him, "I don't know. Does it bother you being follically disabled?" I don't know if you know Jeff, but he's kind of like Joe. So yeah,
Yeah.
didn't bother me at all. So anyway, you got to keep a sense of humor about things. And if you let it get to you, let it get you down, it's going to get you down. But don't let it get you down.
Yeah. Yeah, life goes on. It's too short to be messing with,
Yep.
that stuff. Anyhow, what do you do for when you are off as a hobby kind of a thing? Cook?
He would be cooking, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Davey,
That's right.
As a hobby,
Yeah.
play the guitar. It's probably my biggest hobby. I got a drone a few months ago. I've been flying the drone around. That's a lot of fun.
That's neat.
Well, that's what
Yeah.
filmed that. That's what filmed that intro.
Right.
Oh, it
Yeah,
did.
if I-
Oh, okay.
You watch the intro again, you can see the shadow of the drone on the ground.
Ah, okay.
Right.
That's cool.
Yeah. I
Along
like
with
to
that,
cook also.
do you? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. My wife's a much better cook, but I like to try.
Okay. Cool. Do you have any, Davino? Do you have any hidden talent besides being a caller well, that's not hidden, and being a
Oh, probably not. I have so few talents that if I have one, everybody knows about it. So
so I guess that's definition of hidden, opposite definition. Dave Hutchinson, do you have any? Do you play the spoons or tap? Well, I guess you don't tap dance too much anymore.
Not anymore. No, really, I'm just an average. you know. No, I used to do a lot more. I mean, I used to scuba dive a lot, and I was a instructor in that for a long time. But yeah, those days are gone. So mostly, I mean, my days are filled with dancing now. I write stuff, I call it, and I, you know, so yeah.
Good.
writing choreo. How much I try to write? I try to write 5 or 10 sequences a day. So it's good practice.
Yeah.
Is it?
hmm
Um,
I don't use a sequencer to write my stuff. I don't know how many do. I write it and then I put it through the sequencer to make sure it works.
Mhm.
And I feel that way they're getting me, not the sequencer. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now, some questions I'm afraid to ask Dave H. But what was the last thing you Googled before this interview?
Yeah. The last thing I Googled before the interview.
Yeah.
Actually, I just today Googled Tarawa.
What was it?
I Googled Tarawa this morning. I was
Tarawa.
watching, yeah, I was watching TV, and in World War II there was the Battle of Tarawa, which is an island in the Pacific. I watch a lot of this World War II stuff, and it was an island in the Pacific that the Americans had to go in and take the Japanese off, and so I looked it up online, see more about it, and it looks like a pretty cool place. Hard to get to. But you can fly there, but you got to go to Australia first or something, or Fiji or somewhere to fly there. So.
Dave, how about you? What was the last thing you Googled?
The last thing I Googled was honestly, I just looked. It was new square dance music. Sorry, that's a pretty boring answer, but that's the truth. Yeah, we had it's I don't Google fun things. It'll be most of mine is how to convert kilometers to miles, or Fahrenheit to centigrade, things like that. So it's all
Things that come up every day.
right.
Okay. Well, let's go to the have you evers. Okay. Have you ever? Well, first off, Dave, you you have a pilot's license?
Well, I did.
Yeah.
It's expired by now, and
Okay.
I'd be terrified to fly a plane probably, but yeah, I did.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah. I mean, if it came down to it, I mean, if I'm in the plane alone and I'm gonna land it, I'm not gonna I'm not going to die, but it's
Yeah, you don't point the pointy end towards the ground and hope get there fast.
no, it's one way to land, but it's not this.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they say that a good landing is when you can walk away from the plane.
Way. Right.
A perfect landing is when they can use the plane again.
That's right.
So anyhow, when you weren't piloting a plane,
Yep.
had you ever jumped out of one while it was in the air?
No, no. I kind of always wanted to, and we're talking skydiving with a parachute, right? Not just jumping out of.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be a good idea.
But I never have.
Dave H.
I too used to fly planes. I had my license,
Yeah,
and I can never see myself jumping out of a perfectly good airplane.
yeah. Good point.
You know. However, this young lady sitting beside me has jumped twice.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It
And
wasn't while you were flying, was it?
no. No, that would have been. I'm surprised with my flying, people didn't jump out more often. Um,
Jeez.
but no, Mary has skydived twice. Um, more guts than I have, that's for sure.
Have either one of you bungee jumped?
No, no.
No.
I've
No.
watched it.
Yeah. Ride a motorcycle?
Yes.
Yeah.
Used
No.
to,
Yes.
yeah, I used to have a bike.
What'd you have?
My own bike, I had a Honda 500 that I used to drive to work and back.
Oh yeah.
And it burned so little fuel, I made up my mind that I was going to drive that thing all year. And I was wearing my snowmobile suit in November, and I drove it to work, no problem. But coming home, we got hit with an ice storm.
Oh gee.
That's the last time I drove that to work, at least in the wintertime. It was a 5 mile drive, and it took me over 3 hours to get home.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Good grief. Have either of you flown in a hot air balloon?
Not me.
No, but we did send my parents in one. My mom had Lou Gehrig's disease, and one of the things that she wanted to do, well, there's two things she wanted to do. One of them was fly in a hot air balloon, and the other one was skydive. We had arranged both, but then she didn't skydive. I think at the last minute. I don't know. She didn't. She had reason. She told us that, what if something went wrong, and when she's skydiving, she'd be worse off than she was. But she had Lou Gehrig's disease. I don't know how you could be much worse off than that. So we did send them my mom and dad in a hot air balloon. My brother and I did.
Very good.
It's really cool. The pilot, I don't know if I take just a minute, the pilot of the balloon, he landed it in a housing development, on purpose, came down between power lines and set it right in the middle of the road and laid the balloon down. It was perfect. And
Wow.
people are coming out of their houses. You're thinking these things landed in a field somewhere, but
Yeah. Well, both of you would be might be interested in it. You only need 12 hours of instruction to be licensed to fly that hot air balloon since you have a pilot. Even though your licenses are lapsed, you just have to write the test again, and it's not as tough.
well, they fly exactly like a plane, right?
Yeah, they go
What's
up,
the
they come
difference?
down.
Right.
Where's
the
yeah.
rubber pedals on this
A lot of gas. Yeah, right. What else is there? Scuba diving, of course. Dave Hutchinson not only scuba dove, he taught it. Did he teach you anything, Dave?
About scuba diving?
Yeah.
No. I did snorkel on my parents' pond for a lot.
Did they catch you? Oh, snorkel. Okay.
Snorkel, yeah.
How about horse riding?
Well,
I've been on a horse.
Been on a horse. Okay.
I went to high school, and they had a horseback riding club, and one of the cutest girls in the class was a member of the club, so I joined the horseback riding club. I had never been on a horse in my life. I sure wanted to meet her. Anyway, that didn't work out so well.
I,
Uh,
I was on a horse once when I was a kid, and it just, when you're on, well, any kind of animal, but like a horse, your well-being is not at the top of their agenda. So if
No.
anything, if they want you off their back, they'll just find a low branch and they're going to clean their back off.
hadn't thought about it that way.
Right.
Um, there was a caller from the Rochester area that did a lot of work with Mike Callahan by
Yep.
the name of Bruce Shaw. Do you remember Bruce?
Yep.
I'm sure Bob Stern would remember Bruce. Um,
Yep.
Anyhow, he ended up in the hospital. I think it was him. And not sure how that whole story went, but anyhow, it leads me to the question of, did you do any calling when you were in the hospital, Dave Hutchinson?
No. No. I was in the hospital at the height of COVID.
Oh, yeah.
So there really wasn't much going on. A little bit of Zoom, I guess, but even that wasn't that popular yet. And no, I couldn't even have. I was in a room alone. I had no guests, no TV. It
Oh,
was
my.
No
yeah,
TV.
no nothing.
Wow.
That's okay. Another time, the next time, they put me in a broom closet. So,
Jeez.
hey,
Dave, have you been in the hospital?
I've been in a hospital. Yeah.
Okay.
I had my appendix out. I don't know, not too long ago. Might have been
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
in the fall, maybe. So I've been in the hospital.
Okay.
Um, my
Have
dad's
you,
been in the hospital a few times, so I've been there with him. I've been there as a patient, and
other times as a visitor, yes. Um,
right.
has either of you fallen off a stage while calling?
falling off a stage. No, but you know what happened once? There was a these carts that they stack chairs on and push them around, right? Well, someone had left it right beside the stage, and I didn't know that. And it was just a flat cart, but it had wheels on the bottom. Well, so I go to step off the stage. I thought it was a stair. I stepped on it, and holy moly, did I go! That was kind of one of those embarrassing moments.
Very good. So, anything you want to add that's not on my script here?
Yeah, I had two things happen in my life. Calling, okay. Uh, I had two guys break out in a fist fight on the floor, and this was in my like third year of calling. How do you handle that? Like, what do you do? You know, um, that was an interesting one. So if anybody ever runs into that, um, it
Ring the bell.
pretty much, yeah. He just, I don't know. That was a good one. And the other one was I had a guy had an attack on the floor once that I had to respond to. Um, it was actually an epileptic seizure he had while the dance was going on.
Whoa.
So that was an interesting
Yeah.
one too. Yeah. Dave, over to you.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think talking about memorable moments. I didn't know if we talked about memorable moments. I called. One of the things I remember most about calling is in the '90s. Sometime they had the National Square Dance Convention in Portland, Oregon, and for some reason I got like a time slot 7 or 8 o'clock on either a Friday or Saturday evening, and there was 300 squares on the floor, which sounds like a lot of people. So that's 2,400 people, but the number of dancers at the convention was 22,000. So there was a lot of people there, and that's sort of a memory that sticks out. Oddly enough, even though that memory sticks out, when I got done calling, I have no idea what happened. I don't remember actually being there because it was overwhelming, but I remember doing that. We just had yesterday. We just had a a dance to raise money for ALS in memory of my mom. So it's the first one we had since COVID. This was the 11th one. We had 10 of them. And the first one was the last time that my mom danced. She was alive then. And so, yes, it was pretty successful. So I'm pretty tired today, but it was a lot of work, but we did pretty well. And dancers came out and they're all great. And they did a lot of work and we had a good dance. Oh, and one other thing, I see Bob Stearns here. I remember Bob. It's good to see you. And there's this hoedown called Get Rhythm. It's actually singing call, but a lot of dancers would use this as a hoedown. And I remember hearing it, but I didn't know what it was. And it was in Fulton. I remember Bob used this song. It's like, there's that song. So I went up and he gave me the name and the record label and the number for the song. I still use it.
You don't look the same as you did back when you were 13.
No, no, not quite. So
We were talking. Go ahead,
How
Bob.
is your mom and dad? I've lost track of your mom and dad. Did I understand your mother passed away?
yes, she passed away in it was in March of 2011. She had Lou Gehrig's disease and
I'm sorry to hear that.
last 14 months. Dad has had some issues. He's still around. He doesn't call anymore or doesn't dance anymore. He's had some issues with seizures, but they're under control.
Well, I'm still calling down here in Florida
Good.
and still enjoy it. And the day I quit enjoying it is the day I quit.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I still enjoy it. I still learn things. That's the nice thing about, square dance calling is it's been, well, I started taking lessons in 75. So it's been 47 years, I guess. You always learn things. It's interesting.
Many times it's interesting that we many times are learning new things about how to teach and how to call from real raw beginner dancers because they have no rules or strict guidelines yet that we've been forced onto them, and they say, well, you say turn through, how far, I remember teaching U-turn back after calling for a number of years, and this one guy kept turning completely around. And he was a challenge dancer, bringing his daughter into a class, beginner's class. So I asked Maury, I said, Maury, what are you doing? He said, well, you said to turn around. I said, well, yeah, but U-turn back is to turn around and face the other direction. He said, no, that's turn halfway around. Duh. So, you learn many things. Along those lines, calling to the straight crowd is easy enough with costumes. It's getting tougher now that people don't wear the costumes anymore. As most of you know, I called for a good 30 years for the Toronto Square Dance Club. I was kind of a founding caller for Triangle Squares. And it's hard to sight call there too, because not only do they not wear the same costumes, colors, they switch all the time, just like in Europe. They switch partners. They switch from boy to girl, girl to boy. So that's kind of tough. Now we'll start with Dave Eno.
Yeah.
Have you any thing about calling in the gay community? Words of wisdom.
I have not called for a gay club. I called in Japan where it was maybe 60, 70% women who all dressed the same. So, you're trying to think, see, the one with the pink flowers is the guy and the blue flowers is the girl. And, and then
Yeah.
their corners got flowers on too. But actually today at the dance I did this afternoon, one of the dancers, said, hey, look, we got 8 guys here. Let's all square up, just a whole square of men. And so that went kind of well. It went okay. And it's tough, if you're calling and just calling stuff off the cuff, I don't know, me anyway. I don't know if you realize, you're looking for guys and girls, and so if you say boys run or whatever, and one of the dancers at the end said, "Well, you were nice to us. You didn't call boys run or girls run." And I just said, "Yeah, that's because I had no idea which were the boys or girls." So Jensen Centers. So that's fun. I mean, it's a challenge, but it keeps, it's all part of the game.
Yep. Dave Hutchison.
I've called for the gay club a lot in Toronto, as you know.
Yeah.
I remember you and me did a weekend together there,
Oh yeah.
way back when, one of their fly-ins. Yeah, it takes a little bit of getting used to. It's not only the costumes, the flourishes they put in, the extra kind of moves they put in. It can be a bit disconcerting if you've never seen it before. But no, I don't have too much. It is the one place that I have to write everything down as for who's with who on the floor, so
Yeah.
that I have something to refer back to. Most cases, well, used to be with the costumes, you just looked and you didn't have to write anything down. Remember who was with who, but there I have to write everything down as to who's going to be with who and give
Yeah.
a get out at the end of it. That's about the only way.
Yeah.
So let me tell them about the story, Joe, of calling in Toronto, where I was calling, and then they were supposed to do a challenge thing, and I was up on the stage, and I'd never met this caller before, and there he was calling C2 on site. Here I was calling C1 up there with it all written out. The guy I'm working with is calling C2 on site, and that's my first meeting with Joe Ubelacker, calling C2 on site. That's show off.
Totally memorized.
Yeah, right.
Well, when you're calling it often enough and everything, you can do that. So let's open up the floor to the rest of the crowd here. I'm sure some of them might have some questions, burning questions that they want to know the answer to. We're like the audio version of People Magazine. Okay, so remember, you need to unmute yourself if you want to talk. Okay. Jennifer's got something to say. I saw you raise your hand, Jennifer. Now you got to talk. It's the rule. Just a minute here. That's what you get. That's down in Florida for the Florida club I called. They had a ship's bell mounted on the wall, and anytime I made a mistake, someone would run over and ring the bell. That's when I decided I'd use the horn. Except it got to a point where I was using my horn too much. So they kind of cut off the bell ringing a little bit. Anybody got? Oh, here we go, Wendy.
I haven't been to many of these things, but first of all, I want to say, Dave, how entertaining your stories have been. I've just really, I turned my video off. I heard every single thing and I just laughed out loud sometimes. It was just wonderful. I'm just curious. I know you guys work a lot together, but have you kept track? How many times have you actually worked together? Just curious to know.
Oh,
I've never kept track.
no,
No.
counting Zoom.
Yeah.
No, not counting
100?
Zoom.
I don't
Not counting Zoom. Not counting
Not
Zoom.
counting Zoom.
Live
Uh,
in person, probably about 20 to 30
20,
times, I guess, something like
20,
that.
25, somewhere around there.
Yeah,
Wow.
we usually do 2 to 3 a year together, and
Yeah.
And you still like each other.
yeah, actually, yeah, Dave is easy to get along with. He does what he's told.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Except
Nothing like Mary. Oh, sorry.
Right. that should have been my embarrassing moment. We were doing a dance, a month ago? It was the one in April.
Mhm.
And we were doing a singing call that, I didn't know the words to, so Dave has the words up on there. And the words that are written down, and whatever the figure is that comes with the song, was ended with started with a grand square, and then was circle left, Alamein left, swinging promenade. Well, I wasn't looking at that part. I changed it so it was grand square, then Alamein left and weave the ring. So now I look down to see what I'm supposed to be singing, the tag. And of course, and right after the weave the ring, I read Alamein left. So I said Alamein left and promenade, because that's what it said on the paper. So in my mind, I see that, never thinking that, Alamein left after weave the ring doesn't work so well. And all the dancers came to a screeching halt. And Dave said that was cute. I've never heard Alamein left after weave the ring. And I'm thinking, is that what I said? And I guess apparently it was. So
that's what you were referring to way back at the beginning of this.
Yeah.
yes, right.
Very good.
Weave the ring to an Alamein left. It was an interesting
good.
call.
Right.
One I've never seen used in choreography. I've never seen anything like it.
It's one of those where you can't say, just do it anyway, and they have the dancers.
That'd be interesting. I'd probably Alamein left my partner and turn around and go the other way.
Right. That didn't happen. It looked like there was a few half Nelsons out there, and there's
Yeah.
a bunch of things weren't. It was a good effort.
Yeah, that's good. Anybody else got it? They don't have to be questions necessarily. You could just any memories of these either one of the guys.
Whenever I make a mistake like that, I usually tell the dancers, I made that on purpose so that you realize that I'm not perfect.
Yeah,
Right.
lower their expectations, eh, Bob?
Yeah.
So that when you get it right, they're wow, hey, he got it. we did a weave the ring and we actually could promenade. Yay!
Yeah,
I'll also mention that at one point we had Dave up. We're from Ottawa, Canada area. We had Dave up to do a dance. I don't remember exactly what dance it was, but anyway, he did this progressive square thing that I think started with 9 squares, and it just sort of went in until only 1 square in the middle was dancing, and then they worked back out until everybody was dancing. And people talked about that for months, and just how amazing that was. And every now and then somebody comes up to me, you got to do progressive squares. It's, I have no clue how to do it. As if you want to do it, ask Dave. He knows how to do it, because I can't do it. And Dave, I mean, it every now and then it still comes up, that one time that you did that, and how just everybody was just so awed about how great an experience that was.
Well, that's pretty cool, but my trouble with that is I get really nervous doing that, because you've got 9 squares, like you say, and one person screws up and 9 squares break down.
Yeah, they'll.
So it can be a bit of a mess if something goes wrong. So I'm always on edge doing that, like, ooh. So
Yeah.
But it is fun, I admit. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why you got to keep it really simple. Now, I'm surprised you did 9 squares, because the square in the very middle, they don't move anywhere.
Yeah. I know. They just kind of stay there, but
So you got 8.
they do move though, but just
Well,
Not like anybody noticed.
yeah.
Well, that's it.
There's a lot of moving around, and it was just awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, in case anybody wants the Don Beck sessions on teaching on Saturdays, I'll be doing how to do progressives on one of his upcoming shows. There's a very simple method. It's so simple, it's mind blowing. But you got to watch. Go on the Newbies Caller on Facebook. He usually advertises there. Anybody else have anything that they remember these two young fellows about? Sound like Ed Sullivan. These two fine young fellows.
Joe, can I just ask a question?
No.
No. Okay.
Just did.
I'll go back to sleep.
No. Come back, Mary. Eileen, come back. Eileen, yeah.
This might not be all that interesting, but it just occurred to me when they were talking about confusion with squares and males and females and all of that lot. Do the females, when they're dancing the left hand over, well, Canada or America, do they wear sashes? Because we do in Australia, and I'm just interested to know whether the females dancing left hand have to wear, or do they wear sashes?
Some do.
Mostly they do. We came up in Kingston this year. The president went out and bought a bunch of those, what do you call it? You know, the construction people wear the vests, and they're kind of a red, like fluorescent kind of vest. And
Right.
all the women that dance the male, the typically male side wear that now. So
Dave E could have used that today when we were dancing with all guys in a square just because.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
didn't you have four with beards and four without or anything like that?
Maybe. Yeah. But it's
Yeah, no, what I was going to say was that people tend to think that it's a compulsory thing, but at one of the a caller session that I attended during one of our conventions, I asked the callers whether they really needed the ladies to wear sashes, and they said that it didn't really matter that, and I don't know how they would be able to know if a lady is left hand without a sash. So do you find it's easier with a sash or without a sash?
Well, because we sight call mostly Dave and I, it's probably a little easier with a sash to recognize them as the
Right.
traditional male part. It's easier when you're getting into some all position stuff. If you're just calling basic stuff from normal positions, it doesn't matter much. But if you're
That's
getting
right.
into some, it's a little easier, yeah.
Sashes would have been good today, but you do things like a brace through if you want to find out who's the guy or not.
Yeah, except if you have two guys together.
Yeah, and it happened today too. And
There you
that's
go.
but it's
But then the other thing is, like at the gay clubs, and Joe knows this, they're really good if you just say males identify, and they will put their hands up right away.
Right.
And you can
Yeah.
sort it out real quick that way.
Right. Yeah, that actually happened today. I called a brace through, and there was guys together. And afterwards, I thought he should have just done an as couples brace through, and then I'd know. But
There you go. Yeah.
I think about that now, and the dance was 3 hours ago, so a little bit timing's a little off. So
Oh,
But anyway, really, in answer to your question, Eileen, it can make it easier, given the certain situations on the floor.
right.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's interesting.
okay. Well, I think we're probably coming to a close here. Next week we've got Ken Burke and Tim Teal. Oddly enough, it's two more guys who've done quite a bit of work together and quite a bit of entertaining at different state conventions and festivals as well. Oops, somebody's iPhone wants in. Okay, we'll let them in. So that's next week. And if you haven't, Ken Burke, I believe, is Ohio, and Tim Teal, I think, is Texas. I haven't really, I got to look that up and be sure. But at any rate, it's certainly worth tuning into. They do skits and all kinds of things. And I wanted to remind everybody of Canada's National coming up in next year, July. Calgary out here has the Stampede, which it's famous for. That happens the weekend before our national festival. So if you ever wanted to come out and see rodeo stuff, see Banff, see the mountains, it's just a gorgeous area. And we're going to have a lot of fun stuff at that convention, as well, all levels from SSD through C2, along with clogging and contras and everything else. So if you haven't looked that up, just Google Canadian National Festival. And we're calling it a festival because we get more money from the government and grant money than if we call it a convention. But it's our national convention in 2024, July. So Love to see you there. I'm the program chairman, so I'm in charge of putting callers in the different spots and all. So want to make sure everybody gets a fair share of at calling and playing together. Some of the extra things we have are some demos. We have some. We have the heritage dancers. They're going to do some demos, short things, so it doesn't interrupt too much of the dancing. Okay. It'd be really great. I should have thought about it for this one. We should have had a clip, Dave and Dave, of the two of you calling together at one of the dances.
Oh yeah, we thought about that.
Yeah, that would have been a nice way to end it out. Well, there's years to come yet, so we'll hope.
Right.
And Dave and Dave both, they probably said it while I was missing, but they suggested the idea that I invite all callers that have been on the Zoom program here to interview me.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Maybe each caller have one question each, sort of a thing, and that'd be fun. But I'll look at that coming down the road, sort of thing.
Well, so we get to make up our own questions to ask you. We
Oh yeah,
might be
yeah.
able to sell tickets to that.
Oh,
That might be
geez. Yeah. I'm just looking at my calendar set up here for this month.
And
So
let me guess, you're busy every
yeah,
Sunday
yeah, yeah.
now for the next
I'm
5 years.
pretty well, yeah. This year's shot all no, no. I have a few spots, but the rest of this month after Ken and Tim, Todd Feligy, who's on your screen here somewhere, he's coming up. Todd, June 18th. Then Steve Hopman, another name you might recognize. You may not know the guy. Um, Certainly a very interesting, very dedicated caller. He's the last one in June. Then in July, we've got Mike Seastrom, Clark Baker, Betsy Gata, and then opening up August is Wendy, who you was just speaking a few minutes ago. So Wendy will be on there. Darren Galena out of California. Jeff Priest is going to be in for September, along with Hannah in September. And then the last one I've got listed here, but it's not necessarily the last one that we'll do in this year, is Shauna Korea, who owns Chic Records. And she'll be another interesting person. I try to get people on who are people we look up to, people I know that we look up to. As
Why did you ask us that?
Yeah, what are we doing here?
well, I
We set the bar, right? We set the
yeah,
bar.
yeah, we have to we have to have something to aim from.
Right.
Don't get me going. Oh, Bob Stern.
Going back to Eileen's question about wearing sashes,
Yes.
not only I think it would be an aid for the caller, it's an aid for the dancers to know which were doing the women's part and which were doing the men's part.
That's true. That's true because so many times, at whatever level, especially in the gay groups, um, you know, you have a line of four facing out, um, and you've got normal lines, and you say boys trade.
Yes.
Well, the guy looks down the line, he sees three other guys there. He goes, oh. But what they do is,
the guys say guy when they call that. Whenever they say
yeah,
guys,
well, that's like Dave Hutchinson mentioned. People identify, and they go boy, and right away they know, which is, but the sashes would be especially helpful for the dancers. It's one more useful thing for them, I believe. So good point, Bob. And Carrie had also asked, what about? I've got to go on here and get it. Where is it? did I ever consider retired callers? Well, I've had a few. Uh, Wade Driver was on, and he's for the most part retired. Um, Let me look at my list again. Where's my list? Daryl Clendenin has been retired and unretired, and I definitely want to get Daryl on here one of these days. Um,
Was
he
was Kerry
teaches a
asking, was Kerry asking about retired callers, or was he suggesting something to you, Joe?
Gee, now there's a thought. uh, yes, I've thought about that. It's a
I
funny
have a
thing is
request, but I'm gonna do another one anyway.
that's yeah. It's like Ron Schneider one time calling Nancy says, "Now next record or singing call is the last one I recorded." He says, and I heard someone say, "I certainly hope it was," um, which is too bad because Ron was a very good caller. Who else did I have on here that's maybe retired? Oh, Larry Letson. He's fully retired. We might get him back for a tip or two here and there. Um, Other than that, Brian Clark, in a way, is somewhat retired. Um, it's a definition of what's retired, but absolutely. Um, One of the things I might mention is if you get an email, it's really good to respond. Even if you don't have an answer, just a response to say, I don't have an answer yet, but I'll get back to you when I do. Just to acknowledge that you've had something. Um, I've sent out a lot of requests to callers, not hearing back at all. And some of them I thought were my friends. So um, it's just good to know. Uh, if they don't want to do it, can't do it, they're calling too much. Uh, Sometime I think it's December. Yeah, the first one in December, Ed Foot. Uh, you know, and people that travel a lot, they just tell me, well, I'm busy all of December because I'm traveling, or I'm busy these times. I can't do that. At least it lets me know where I can schedule people. And there's a number of you that show up every week and whatnot that I will contact eventually too, very definitely. So, anybody else got anything at all they want to say? I see Stephen was late today. We want to mention that. Stephen Potter, y'all want to wait?
Sorry about
Steve?
that.
Yeah,
I
sure.
didn't get to record it today for
I
you,
know
so
it.
you better have a good recording.
Well, I don't, and that's why Carrie has offered that. Oh, and Carrie also wondered about getting callers from Japan. I have planned on doing something like that, and it's for people like Australia and Japan especially because the timing is not great for them. So I will schedule some of these eventually. That'll be a little bit later. I don't want it to be too late because then Europe will be sleeping at the other end of the schedule. So it's all stuff to work out. So anybody that has suggestions and whatnot, definitely feel free to email me. Let me know. A number of you have already, and I've acted on these things. It just helps. Uh, so some of these are fun. Some of these are very informational. This one I haven't categorized yet because I still want to work with these guys. Next time I come out to Ontario direction. So I think with that we can close it off. I thank everybody for showing up today, and I especially want to thank Dave and my other brother Dave for for agreeing to do it and putting together kind of a neat little bit of entertainment there. Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks, Joe.
Yep.
Thanks for having us, Joe. Really appreciate it.
Yep, it was a lot of fun. I hope it was a lot of fun. Hopefully, as callers, we don't like to have more fun than our dancers. So hopefully, you guys had more fun than we did. But,
Yeah.
we had fun.
Okay. So I'll let you all sign off as you wish. I'm going to stop the recording at this point, at least.